November 29th, 2018. Tonight, I want to talk about Immanuel Kant, K-A-N-T. Kant is a philosopher that many people have heard of, even if they know very little about philosophy. His name stands out. He's a German idealist. Oftentimes, if you do a class on Kant, you might get a class on Hegel in the same class over the weeks split between them. Kant and Hegel were contemporaries. And the one that had been standing on the side of all this German idealism would be Schopenhauer, with pessimism saying what he says. Now, and he'd have been more of Hegel's specific contemporary. Kant comes in the late 1700s, idealism in Germany, but Kant tells us some very important things about human existence, psychological and otherwise. Kant's main statement is known as the categorical imperative. And the categorical imperative is act according to the maxim, of which you wish would be universal if you were being acted upon. Act according to the maxim of which you wish would be the universal if you were being acted upon. It's basically the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or treat others the way you want to be treated, etc. The golden mean from Aristotle. Kant tells us that he believes we're all born good. And he divides our birth down into two categories, a priori and a posteriori. And a priori would be what we're born with, the stuff that comes with us as us when we're born a priori. And then a posteriori will be the empirical knowledge or the learned knowledge, what we gain through education. And environment filters into this too. And it's sort of like a nature-nurture argument in psychology, but psychology is really relatively still new. And you know, this is way before. Kant's seen as a psychological analysis though. So Kant tells us he believes we're all born a priori good. And that our education, our empirical knowledge gained, our teaching, our environment filters in to make us more good or not. But because Kant believes we're good at birth, he believes that God will help us get through and stay good. And that's why they're called German idealists. Now, when he says act according to the maxim, he's saying you look at someone else, you do no harm, you look for utility. You look for an idea like social contract in a way. It's not really pure anywhere. Even Karl Marx with the Communist Manifesto, which Frederick Engels really wrote more than Marx. Marx had money and an education, and he penned it, but he promoted it, so he gets credit. But even that, Marx tells you that no pure form of government, even pure communism, will not work. So Marx and these guys say their own work won't work. This is a key. Now, Kant would never say that because he's an idealist. And Hegel, he does so many other things other than just philosophy of being and nature and Christianity. Hegel's early theological writings where he rewrites, the life of Jesus Christ. It's unbelievable. Hegel wrote that when he's like 27, 8 years old. And that's how old I was when I was reading it. And then economics and mathematics and all the other things Hegel talks about. But Kant very much into science and math too. And he would say that we spend our life a priori as how we were born to it. And that everything else we know and get empirically, learn knowledge, education, our environment itself, all these things go into really making us who we are. And if we notice this, we can live in a state of reflection. But he believes it's towards God. He believes that a priori we're all born good, that we're all good by nature. And in a world with evil things happening, extremely evil things, it's very hard and archaic to want to believe Immanuel Kant. But his ideas overall about brain psychology and how it works and how the mind works are very good. It's excellent data to have. And of course, Schopenhauer is going to stand back and say, Kant and especially Hegel, you're all wet, because Hegel's right there in his face. They know each other. And he says, I want to know about why I'm in pain, why I'm in agony, why I have anxiety or angst, why it hurts so bad, why moods overwhelm me. It would take a while in Nietzsche to bring this up. why moods are so horrible and what it does to you and breaks you down. But Kierkegaard's bringing it up right along with Nietzsche in Denmark. Well, Nietzsche does it in Germany as Schopenhauer's teacher. You know, it's his teacher. It's unbelievable. Schopenhauer was Nietzsche's professor. It makes sense. So what does it become? Well, we're born good. We're born what we are a priori from our parents. Not really good or bad. And then we learn to do good because we're taught well most of the time. And now and then people deviate from this because of environment or empirical knowledge or education has in some way affected them negatively. Or one or the other. Or people become disenfranchised with themselves. They're not connected to anyone else, and they can do really horrible things without greatly thinking about it or any other kind of insight because they're not reflective to begin with. So a goal is to make your children aware of the ideas of virtue and goodness, right along with the teachings of Jesus Christ from God himself, with engaging the Holy Spirit, and bring it along and tell them about virtue and thinking about thinking is what the goal is. And the unexamined life, as Plato tells us, is not worth living. So if you're not examining life and thinking about what you're doing, you're not living right. Kant would agree to these things. There isn't a philosopher alive that came after the Greeks that didn't read them all. So, and that includes a number of politicians, although sometimes I wonder about virtue and what they're thinking. Yeah, but you know, try not to judge. Just remember, live, love, laugh, and complain. My 4 rules for living. And complaining's essential. And no, we're not all good. We're just trying to be. And virtue comes because we try. No perfect exists, even in virtue. Take care, y'all. I hope you have a good Friday night. Peace.